it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I am super excited that we have launched the Cut and Goes on my website. That is natashafootecreative.com, and over there you will be able to find under the free resources tab quite a few things, but one of them will be this PDF. Now this is my first version, the first one of my Cut and Goes, and these are exactly as the name suggests. You cut them out and you are ready to make some cards. Now, of course, there are so many more options, and this is basically what I like to call a base layer. From there, the world is our oyster, and I want to show you some more cards that we can create just using this gorgeous PDF that you can print out, download, print out in your very own home. So, I did mention a couple of things about this. Now, actually on this sheet here, there are two different sections, and I did mention this. There is a video one that goes along, that goes into more detail as well, and I will have that linked down below here, but this is going to be the next video that comes out in the Cut and Go series, and explaining and showing you, we're going to make 3 more cards today using just this PDF that we have downloaded. So, as I was mentioning, there are 2 different parts here. Essentially, you don't have to use them separately, but they were sort of designed this way. So up the top here, this is sort of number 1, the first set, and then down the bottom here is set number 2, because I want to get the most out of this sheet, and so I wanted there to be so many ideas. Of course, they can be used together. We can mix and match, absolutely. Some of the elements, like these ones here, are the same, of course, but other than that, it's pretty much everything on there is different. There is several of each one, so you might be able to, if you want more, print out several of these sheets, and that will give you even more options. Again, I want to show you some easy, cool options for doing that, but today we are going to be working on the second half of this sheet. So these are some of the cards that we made in video 1. As I said, if you want to go and check that out, the link will be in the video description box below, or it'll be a recent video next to this one. Here is the second part. So these are all the things that you are going to get. Now you get one of these strips. This is going to be 5.5 inches tall, because these were all designed to work on a 4.25 by 5.5 inch card base. I have printed out several of them, and I have cut out several of them. You also get 3 of these squares here that have the blue border around. Now, as you can see, there are more up the top that go with the first part as well, so there's actually more on there. There are 3 solid squares just in the blue, and there are 3, although I seem to be missing one, 3 sentiments printed in the white text on a blue background, rather than the top sentiments there, which are the on a white background. Then you have these 3 little gingham pattern squares that are also in the bottom set. So enough explaining, let's get to creating some beautiful cards. Now, I will show you like a lot of alternatives along the way, because it takes me a while to finally get to a card that I want to finish up and show you, but here you can see this reaches the top to toe of the card base. So in general, this here would be a really fun and easy layout, just using these 3 squares, and they are really easy to line up, because you just line up the top point and the bottom point alongside that strip, and it can go sort of anywhere on your card. You could add in a sentiment like this on the angle. You could stamp in your own sentiment as well. You could add in the little patterns into the center. They are designed to all work inside of each other and layer up nicely. You can choose whether you want to, when you cut these out, whether you want to leave a white border or you want to cut up close to the color. And all of these elements were designed to be layered, so you can pop in the pattern piece and then you can pop a sentiment on top. But just before we get to all of that, let's get to actually creating another card. As I said, I'm going to show you lots of options, and not necessarily, we are going to do 3 finished cards today, but as I said, along the way, I just want to show you as many options as I possibly can. If you are going to cut out more of these, like you're going to print out several, and that's just what I do. I tend to print out like 5 of these or 10 of these at a time and just do lots of cutting in front of the telly, or if I'm watching a movie, or if I'm sitting on the sidelines at sport, kids sport, then I will just be happy snipping out and cutting into my lap and having these ready to go when I just need a quick card created. Now, if you had 3 of these of course could make strips. If you had more of them, you could do some weaving with them. These 3 squares here are designed to fit really nicely, even spacing along the side there. You can even add in more strips. You could add in an entire background of strips. Don't forget that you could use cover plate, die cover plates, which would be the white background, and you could load them up on top of that for a little bit of interest. You could also emboss with embossing folders the background or some of the squares or some of the strips to give it a little more texture without adding in any more colors. So many different options. Okay, these here are gorgeous. Now, I'm actually not sure if these are still available. These gorgeous indented stitched rectangles, but that's not the point if they're available, because I'm sure you have something similar in your stash. If you don't want to use something like this, then by all means just cut it out with a trimmer. That's going to work perfectly fine. Now, as I said, these are sized to work for a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card, so that's why it's going to be longer than this piece that I have, the card front that I've cut out, because that is going to leave a border around my card. So we'll need to do a bit of trimming, and that's perfectly fine. All of the items on the PDF were designed so that you can cut them out with a pair of scissors, or if you like, a trimmer. Nothing is complicated, nothing is hard. All of the lines will match up nice and straight, and that is exactly how they were designed on purpose. If you want to, another option would be if you had some smaller stamps. So for example, I've got a couple of different little packets here, and these are going to fit some nice sentiments on them. You could have them on an angle so that they fit that sort of diamond look. You could turn them around so that they have the more square look, depending how you are putting them on your card. This is the Altenew Plants and Vases stamp set. Again, lots of these are going to fit really nicely. You could even do some stamping on these as well. You could mask off the border if you didn't want the border to get the ink on it. So many different options. I am going to take the gorgeous Happy Birthday from the Plants and Vases little mini stamp set. Again, I'm not sure if this one's available. Actually, it might be available on the Altenew website, so I'll link to that one down below. As usual, anything that I can find, I will link it down below the video. There will also be a link to the previous video, number 1, that launched the cut and goes, but you find these over on my website at natashafootecreative.com. You can also use the camera on your phone to hold up to the QR code in the top right hand corner of the screen, and that will take you to my website as well. As I said, this is under the free resources tab. There is also under there plenty of resources, but alongside these printables there are my printable sentiment sheets that you can cut out. Again, designed for you to be able to print these out at home, and with the sentiments you can particularly enlarge them or make them smaller, and that way you've got bigger sentiments, smaller sentiments, all carefully designed and curated so that you are able to cut them out without zero hassle. Now, if you want to do, I'm sure you might even have some square dies that would cut out some of these perfectly, but as I said, I didn't make them too big so that they were easy to cut along. I find a nice long scissor blade is a really easy way to go about cutting along here if you don't have a trimmer. Now, this one here is just a little bit of, this was actually some excess from another project, and it's in this gorgeous orange color, and orange is going to contrast beautifully with blue. It is across the color wheel from blue, so it's the opposite colors. I'm just going to back one of my strips. As I said, these cut and goes are designed as the base layer, and we can do things to jazz this up, and this is one of them. So I've got that extra little dotted pattern to go down the side, and then I'm going to use my stamped Happy Birthday, and I'm just going to cut off the excess because, as I said, these was designed to be a little bit taller and go the full length of the card if you're going directly onto the card base. Now, let's just glue everything down. You can use layers of foam tape. You can put it flat against the card if you want to keep it nice and flat. You can really pop them up and use a little bit of dimension with some foam tape or some extra pieces of cardstock, some scrap you can pile up behind there. These are really easy to place, but I just gently place them down and I'm lining them up with the blue strip in the background, and then just make sure it's sort of even when I put the third one down between the other two. So really, really easy to line up. Then you could add in some extra blue pattern pieces onto the center if you wanted to. I'm going to lean into the orange with this one because when I put this down on the white card base, I feel like it just blended in a little too much. So I'm going to pop a little bit of foam tape on the back here and then pop this down onto a sweet mango, which is a Gina cardstock. Beautiful, bright and orange. We're leaning into the contrasting colors for this one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. As I said, we are going to be making a few cards today. I really want to give you as many options as we possibly can. So I'm going to use the straight, long, narrow strip here, and we're using another one of those stitched rectangles. You could use a couple of these or line up all three of these. So many different options, and then have the squares going down the side. They could be overlapping with the straight long lines, or they can be separately off to the side. And of course, as I said, you could do some gorgeous stamping in these. You can actually use, if you printed out a couple of the sheets, you can use 9 of those squares to make a gorgeous panel on the front of your card. This one here, I'm going to add a little lace border. This is just a die cut. Again, scraps. These were white, but I used the Gina in the navy, which is just a dark blue, obviously, a navy color. And I'm going to pop this either side of my strip to dress it up just a tiny little bit. It gives it that little bit of elegance and warmth to the card. And I'm just going to pop this one down flat. So I just use some glue to attach those either side. There's no dimension at the moment. And then I will use some glue to pop this down onto my card front. And I have found that the Gina in the navy or the Distress Oxide Chipped Sapphire, those are 2 inks that I have that go beautifully with this color of blue. I mentioned in the previous video that at the moment this is the only color release, but let me know in the comment section, as I said, if there are other colors that you think would go well or that you would like me to change this into. I don't have immediate plans right now, but by all means it could be coming up. We have lots of exciting things in the pipeline at the moment that I am working on. Right, I'm going to pop these down with some liquid glue. Now, as I have said many times, this gives me the ability to make these even. I want to be able to move these around, even though I've got the foam tape and the dimension there. I want to be able to move them because they look nicest if they're going to be, give or take, roughly even. You know me, I don't love measuring. I like to eyeball things, but if it looks good to the eye, then that's good enough for me. You absolutely could measure if you wanted to. You could have stamped a sentiment on these. I'm going to use one of the sentiments that is in the PDF, so nice and easy. I could put it down onto a plain white card base. Again, I think that would work well, but I'm actually going to give it that beautiful contrasting color. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the Gina in the navy ink, and I'm just pop this down onto a piece of scrap paper. I have recently inked this, so it is very juicy and very dark, but it will dry beautiful and even. And then this is going to be, as I said, a nice contrasting layer that I can pop down my card front onto. You could just use a dark blue card base if that's what you have. I don't. I mainly have the white card bases. It's mainly what I create, so if I need a different colored one, I usually make them myself. Occasionally I'll have one that's ready to go, like the sweet mango one that we used before. But we can turn any card base, a white card base, into any color. Whereas if it's already a colored cardstock, then our options are more limited, but not impossible. Right, that is card number 2. So we've created 2 cards today. Again, different layouts. And I want to create at least one more with you because, as I said, there are so many options. These cut and goes are fabulous. You literally print, cut them out, and you're away card making. So there are some gorgeous designs that you can do down with these squares. As I mentioned, you could use 9 as a panel. You can have 3 of these going down on an angle, and then you can choose whether you want to put in the pattern pieces in the center. You can choose if you want a sentiment to go in the center, and you can choose if you want there to be a white border behind the pattern pieces, or you want to cut up close to the color. You could add in some of the strips behind this as well. But for this one, I'm going to again use that in the navy as my card base color. And then this one kind of looks, you know, pretty basic at the moment. This is sort of a real basic version, although it looks good. It's good to go. Let's add a little bit more in it by just adding some texture into the background. And as I mentioned earlier, you might do this via die cuts, you might do this with embossing folders, you might have a stencil with a really gentle pattern that you'd like to do in the background with just a, you know, like a soft grey colour or something. I'm going to go with the die cut option and use the Princess Circle from Gina K. I happen to have these cut out and in the back of the packet, because there are some intricate parts to this die. And again, this is one that I sort of do all the die cutting whilst I'm doing something else, and I will just sit there and pop out all the little bits and pieces and clean them all up and then pop them in the back of the package so that I'm more likely to use this gorgeous, gorgeous die. But I'm putting this down with a layer of 1mm foam tape, so just popped up but barely. It definitely helps it stand out a little bit because that is purely white on white in the background. And then I'm going to put the sentiment straight down, the center sentiment straight down onto the Princess Circle, but I'm just going to pop a 1mm in the corner of these two, and that will make everything sit nice and even with that die cut that we've got in the background. And as I said, that little bit of texture going on in the background just elevates the card from a little bit basic to a little bit more detail. And that's what I love about these cut and goes. You can choose your layer of difficulty, I guess, of complexity. You can either go really simple and beautiful and basic, or you can have a look in your scraps pile, have a look in your fabric stash or your lace stash, and add some little bits and pieces in. It's your time to embellish. Also, if you do end up creating with these, come and join my Facebook group, Come Crafting with Natasha on Facebook, and post your creations, because I would love to see my hard work turn into your beautiful, fun enjoyment. So I love to see them. Post them in the Facebook group and I'm able to see and comment and reply, and it will also inspire all of our other wonderful supportive members as well. Otherwise, go to my website, natashafootecreative.com, and you will find these cut and goes under the free resources tab. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Here's a look at the cards, and at the end of this one, YouTube also has some other suggestions that you might like. I will see you in the next video.